Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ricky with Techbuds Solutions. Hope you guys are all having an amazing day. And this is going to be week one of our weekly private live chats for those that are part of Techbuds Solutions. So again, this is something that's always going to be private for Techbuds Solutions and Techbuds Solution members only. And we plan to do this on a weekly basis. Hopefully every single week, like around Wednesday, I think kind of midweek, kind of just following up, talking about what we've done well, what we can look forward to for the rest next couple of days. I know today's Friday, but I just want to at least catch up with you guys and say what's up, see how you guys are doing, see if I can answer any questions just to avoid the FAQs being answered or being asked in the Techbuds Solutions main chat. So let's kind of go ahead and just get started. Let's do this. So Eric, I'd love to get your Learn Plan Profit program. Do you by any chance have any discounts for prior service? Since you... what do you mean by, so John, what do you mean by prior service? Like you served in the military? Love the recap. So Jake Ryan, and then for all those that watched today's video, I want you guys to know that I thought it would be pretty obvious for any of you that like are actively watching stocks or the ETFs that I trade almost every single week. Like obviously Gush is not at the price point of $22. Like that was a pre-recorded video, but I thought the way that I broke things down and that I explained everything, everyone always asked me for a video like that. So that's why I just decided to upload that specific video. So I hope that I had a couple of people in the comment section question like, I'm confused, like is he trying to say that he just took this position? In the description I explained that no, this is a pre-recorded video that of earlier 2018 and all that stuff. So I don't know if people thought that was supposed to try to be like misleading or something. I just thought it'd be obvious that, you know, Gush is obviously not at $21. It's like at 38. So obviously, you know, very easy to identify the different price point there. But yeah, so prior service is veteran. So I do apologize for not knowing that. So I was in the Army. John, I'd love to give you a discount. We actually do offer a military discount. If you want to direct message me within Techbuds Solutions, just direct message me within the Discord chat. I would be more than happy to offer you a discount. And thank you again for your service. LPP has been great. The profits pay for the course itself. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you again for all those that are part of LPP. I do want to focus on Techbuds members though. So like, as in like, if you're part of LPP and Techbuds, great. I want to answer your questions, but this isn't where I want to promote the course or anything like that. I just want to like speak to you guys. I just want to answer questions if that's not too much to ask. Any random tips that you haven't covered in a while? Ryan Hubert. Why does that sound so familiar? Is this... Wait, this can't be Ryan. My Ryan. Let's see. Oh no, the Ryan that I know is Ryan Huber. That's crazy. I thought you were one of my buddies. I was like, are you messing with me? But Ryan, some tips that I would recommend. So obviously you guys know that I like focusing on patterns that are kind of horizontal patterns or ascending uptrend patterns. And yeah, so I actually had really good questions today that I think it's almost second nature for me. And I made very, and I really like bring myself down, and the people that are around me, as in like my roommates and my partners, right, that are part of like who it is that I work with and stuff, obviously see like my change in emotion. And it's something that, you know, you have to work on. But I made some very like just beginner mistakes this week, and I want to talk about them. And it was like when it came down to the position on UGAS. So looking at UGAS as of right now, looking at this 20-day analysis, I ended up holding it, right? It hit highs of $68. I obviously saw, again, asking yourself the question, just so I get straight to the point, are you getting a good deal? And if you're going to hold something overnight, asking yourself the question, is there any potential for it to continue to descend because it's not a good deal and because it could sell off, right? And looking and understanding that, okay, there's a support here at $62, there's a resistance here at $68, right? I bought closer to the resistance than I did to the support because I saw value in day trading it. But yet I made the decision to hold this overnight. And that was a very beginner mistake in my opinion. And again, it's a mistake that, you know, you're like, I'm human, right? I'm going to make mistakes, but in reality, it's asking yourself. So a tip that I would encourage, you know, any random tip that I would encourage you to do, especially if you're planning on day trading or swing trading something, if you're having, you know, trouble identifying what you should do, is ask yourself, are you getting a good deal? And if you're planning on holding something not only over the weekend but something overnight, does the opportunity cost, first of all, what is the direction of the equity that you are trading? Is it actively trending up, not just for 1 or 2 days, but looking at the overall direction on the 180-day, the 1-year chart? Is it actively trending up or is it trending down, right? So if it's actively trending down, obviously it would make sense to me to not hold this one overnight, right? Because it has an active downward pattern. So if I'm getting a good deal, great. And then if I see that it's actually actively trending up and it has a lot more margin for profit than it does for loss, then it makes sense on why I would be motivated to hold that, because the opportunity cost, it's much greater for this thing to go up than to go down. So those would be one of the biggest tips. Honestly, if you ask yourself every single time, are you getting a good deal? Is it actively trending up? And do I know the overall direction and the pattern of that specific equity? I think that you will have a much higher success rate because you would be less likely to take positions just based on hype and other people's opinion. All right. All right, can you give us so again, thank you again, Matthew, for tuning in. So can you give us any tips or tips of advice when it comes down to understanding the overall direction, right? Or when it would be a good time to sell? So something that I would kind of look for when it would be a good time to sell would be have a reason for everything it is that you do, not just for a sell, but it's for the buy as well. So the reason that you purchased something, it should have been because you thought that maybe it was a good deal. Obviously, maybe the momentum was there if you're focusing on day trades. There's a reason for your action of a purchase. There should be. Same thing, a reason or an action, that you should have a reasoning behind your action of a sell. If there's an obvious form of resistance, right, then there's nothing wrong with covering profits at that position. Also asking yourself, is the opportunity cost much greater for this thing to get rejected than to continue to uptrend? And if you answer yes, then okay, then it would make more sense to sell because the opportunity cost for profit does not outweigh the opportunity cost for loss. And if the margin of profit does not outweigh the margin for loss, then it probably isn't the best idea when it comes down to risk management to still continue to hold that specific position, especially if you're doing like short-term swing trades or if you went in for a day trade but it didn't play out the way that you expected it to. Just take a step back. Forget about how much it is that you're up, how much it is that you're down, how much you believed you thought you were going to make. Just take a step back, look at the overall pattern of what it is that you are trading, and ask yourself, which direction is it trending? And do you understand the pattern and the direction of which way it's going to be going? So I think those are very simple questions that you can ask yourself that really anyone can answer. And it could really assist you in minimizing the overall mistakes that you end up making. But I think you guys, just based on it approaching the support here, right around $62, shows a pretty good sign for a reversal pattern following up with this upcoming week, hopefully by Monday. So it's just going to be something that we'll have to follow up with. It looks like the MACD indicator is in its favor, so was the RSI, and so was the overall pattern on why it bounced at around $62. It definitely makes a lot of sense. How about day trade and swing trade indicators and timeframes? I have a video of that on YouTube. I do have a video on that, Jay. How should we time our entries? So I think, Chris, so what's going on, man? I think that would be one of the most, that has to be one of the most difficult parts, because I know a lot of people sometimes feel like that every time that they're about to take a position, right as they take the position, it sells off. I think asking yourself, I'm someone, and I don't know if it's something that, it's just myself. It can't just be me, though, because I've heard it multiple times before, is anytime that you are taking a position, every time that you go in, it continues to descend. So before you actually take your position, if you've noticed that pattern, something that you can do is wait 10 to 20 minutes before you actually take your position. If you see value in something, if you've identified a pattern that every time you take a position, it continues to descend, then how about just wait 20 minutes and then visit it once again? And if it continues to get rejected, again, then it might not be the best time to actually enter. But when you actually are looking and doing some technical analysis, let's say intraday on the 1-day, 1-minute chart, right? When would be the best time to enter? I like to focus on, so I'm going to move this up just a little. Let me do this. Nope. So I have to go like this. It doesn't let me. My goodness. All right, but pretty much, so let's just use UGAS for example. I like to use the middle VWAP, or the VWAP indicator. I have a video on it on YouTube on how it is that I use it, but I like to make sure that it's trending up above the EMA and the middle VWAP just to ensure that something is actively trending down. But up, I'm sorry, but multiple times. It goes above the middle view up and the EMA, and still sometimes it does end up getting rejected. So again, just taking the initiative of like, before you actually take a position, if you've noticed a pattern where every time you're about to take a position, it continues to descend and it continues to get rejected, then waiting a couple minutes, right, and then revisiting that specific, potential entry and see if it's still valid. And if you see that it's still confirming the uptrend, then again, watching it very closely. So I think if you've noticed that you sometimes take a position a little bit too early, as I'm just talking based on experience, then something that I would do is maybe just take a step back and let it play out a little bit more. Let it, sell off a little bit longer. Be less, on edge to always take a position right away when you first identify, a potential reversal. And maybe it might take a little bit more minutes or a little bit more time for it to actually fully consolidate and then create that overall reversal. So just investing a little bit more time to, letting it kind of consolidate and really recover it and formulate that entire reversal. So Jeremy, yes, but as of right now, just based on previous patterns for something like UGAS on this 20-day 1-hour chart, you can see that there's obvious consolidation between $62 and $68. And looking at UGAS, it definitely looks like it's at the support and it's starting to reverse back up. And if you look at DGAS, DGAS is definitely showing more signs of a peak formation at the resistance, right, at around $24. So I could definitely see value in DGAS, either when it bounces right back down here at $22, or if it continues to uptrend and validates 24 as its support. All right. No, I do not short stocks, Charlie. Thank you for the question, though. So, whoops. Did not mean to put that. Meant to put that over here. I don't think I've ever rejected my message before. But looking at SOXS, we can see that it has a continuous downward pattern. Yes, it is actively reversing back up. I personally would stay away from patterns similar to this, especially if you're just getting started and especially if you're having trouble staying green. This strong descending pattern can be a little bit tricky to play. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means that you have to keep a very close eye to when it gets rejected and when it starts actively trending down. This is one that I feel like a lot of people can get caught bag holding, and it's not something that you want to, really, I think, be a part of. It's not something that I want to be a part of. So looking at the overall direction, I don't find this to be a very attractive pattern, as well as identifying if I'm getting a good deal. Yes, I do see that it's pretty low, but because it's been making lower lows and stuff like that, it just becomes a little bit more difficult to trade. So yeah. So hi Ricky, can you advise me on other platforms for overseas investors as an example based on the UAE? But been looking into suitable options with no luck so far. Thanks again, man. So what's going on, Muhammad? I'm not too sure if you've looked. I'm not aware of all the different brokerages that are available in the UAE. One suggestion that I would have for you is if you can go to a local bank and ask if they are aware of any brokerages that are available to the public within your area. And if not, I do know that there is Ustock Trader and Sure Trader that are available for those that are outside of the US. So I hope that can hopefully guide you in the right direction. So great, I'm going to try that with paper money. I'm just waiting a little bit longer, and then, of course, Chris, definitely. Please follow up with me whenever you get the chance and see how this kind of plays out. And yeah, I mean, just make sure that you have a reason for everything that is that you do. Don't just get in the fear of missing out, but make sure that every time that you get in, there's a series of indicators or patterns that you're looking at that give you an obvious indication for why you're entering a position. But yeah. Okay, so it looks like you gave an example of MBI. Again, so there is no like, I'm known to be someone that sells a little bit too early anyways, right? But using MBI for an example, right? It's all about patterns and understanding when it would be a good time to just cover profits. Like when is it a good time to sell and when is it a good time to buy? I think the RSI indicator is an amazing indicator to give you a better like general understanding for that. So as of right now, do I see MBI as a good buy? No, I see it more on the overbought side. I see that based on previous patterns, it definitely is showing more signs of rejection. But let's wait for this, right? Does it mean that it cannot be a good buy at around 952? No, it doesn't mean that. Let's say that within 1 to 2 weeks, because it would require this, in 1 to 2 weeks, it continues to consolidate and hold at around like 920, 950, and then it continues to uptrend, kind of like it did here. Do you see this? Like it pushed up, it showed obvious signs of it being overbought, right? And then it got rejected, it consolidated around this resistance for maybe about a week to about 10 days, and then it broke right back up above the resistance. But at that time, it wasn't as overbought as it was before. But why is that if it's at the same price point? It's because, again, there wasn't so much hype behind on when it pushed up, right? So just know that as of right now, based on the current position that it's at right now, there's no question that MBI, anything can happen. This thing can shoot up to $12 for whatever we know. But it's using obvious patterns or previous patterns and previous indicators that can give us a better understanding on when is it a better time to buy and when is it a better time to sell. There's no exact, does that make sense? Like there's no exact time that I can tell you every time that you buy here it's going to be a good buy and every time that you sell here it's going to be a good sell. It's just looking at previous patterns, usually when is it a good time to buy and usually when is it a good time to sell, and then just waiting for the confirmation on that. As of right now, if I was an investor in MBI, waiting for the break above the EMA and the SMA would have made a lot of sense here, and then to sell at around 950 would have made a lot of sense, even if it ends up going to $10. Yes, it would have sucked. I missed out on 50 cents per share, but in reality, I sold at a price point that made sense to me because of previous patterns, and I can't, bring myself down for that. So I hope that makes sense. But does it mean that if it, again, I would sell here, and then if it continues to consolidate and then it breaks right back up again and it shows a similar pattern to this, then it would make sense on then why I would want to continue to invest, because then it validates this more as a support than a resistance because it's showing continuous uptrend patterns. So I hope that makes sense. All right, so GES, so this is Guess. This is an apparel or clothing store for those that aren't aware of it. Looks like because of its earnings had a pretty aggressive sell-off. It looks like it's catching right back up to that SMA. I think it's going to be some time for it to really consolidate around this area just to recover this huge sell-off that it had. It had a lot of momentum picking right back up. I think it's going to take some time and consolidate around this area. It looks like it built a resistance right around $23, which makes sense. So something that we can do and something that we can follow up with is, as of right now, I would see there to be a resistance right around $23, and I would see there to be a potential support right around this SMA indicator. So again, we can wait for confirmation for that. And do I think that the margin is worth it within that area? I don't think it's not worth it, right? That's a little joke. But when it comes down to just overall patterns, if you're a little anxious to even enter a position right now just because it's consolidating too long and you're not comfortable with it, don't force it. Keep it simple and take a step back. And when it continues to confirm that uptrend pattern, then great. I definitely like the call out. Thank you again, Greg, for calling it out. BBE, I think you meant BBY if I'm not mistaken, because but BBY as of right now is getting rejected right around the SMA indicator. We've talked about this one before, getting rejected here, bouncing around the EMA indicator, and then I have my alert set for the break above 73. So we've talked about that one multiple times though before. Yeah, of course. So Saeed, I was actually going to make a video later today, if that's okay. I'll do a very quick breakdown for you on my call out. I called out one stock today. I called out two stocks. It was UYAS and FRAC. And the reason that I called these out were, well, looking at the pattern for FRAC, I saw value in it because it offers a very horizontal pattern. I identified it to be very on the oversold side. It is, far below where it normally trades at around $14 to $16, which offers about a 13% margin. But because of that, I felt like it offered a lot of margin for potential recovery, as it did last time when it sold off pretty aggressively and it recovered, even close to the EMA indicator. It made a lot of sense. Overall, the MACD indicator was making a lot of sense on why it would, end up recovering. And I'm going to do a little bit more in-depth of a breakdown on why it is that I see a little bit more value in it. But looking at previous patterns, it obviously has a previous support around $14, previous resistance at around 16. So do I think that it's the best investment for all of our traders? 100% no. If anything, I wouldn't even encourage you to invest in it at all, just because it's still actively trending down below the EMA. The reason that I took this position is more of a risky position due to it And this one can go extremely wrong for me, as this thing can continuously get rejected and break below $13, and then I'm gonna end up having to cut losses on it. But it's a risk that I was willing to take due to the opportunity cost that I saw, and being able to make about 7% just as a recovery. And although I saw value in it, doesn't mean that that's a risk that you have to take, and that's something that I need you guys to all understand, that it's just because it's something that I do doesn't mean that it's something that you have to be comfortable doing as well. And that's why we're all wired in different ways. So Dreamers is saying, no question today, just want to say thank you for your videos and Techbuds, up $100 my week. Wow, that's super sweet. Dreamers, really happy to, I don't know your name, but I'll call you Dreamers by your username. So really happy to hear that, so thank you again. Trade Zero, yeah, can you note that one down, Justin? Because Trade Zero are for people outside of the U.S. Thank you again for that. Huh? Yeah, thank you. So what do I think about HTZ? My alert didn't go off when it broke above 16, as I don't think it actually did. I think it might during pre-market hours, yeah, or during extended hours. Yeah, it just hit 16 during extended hours, and my alerts don't go off based on that. But overall, it's been offering a pretty aggressive descending pattern, and I was just a little anxious. Like, first of all, you guys have to understand like how I'm identifying potential. I'm trying to identify potential of what's relevant within 1 week to 2 weeks. If I'm more thinking about like a long-term investor, as in like I plan on holding something for maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, HTZ would make a lot of sense as an investment because, again, first of all, HTZ is Hertz. It's a multi-billion-dollar company, if I'm not mistaken. It's a car rental company. And looking at previous patterns, it would make a lot of sense on why this thing would even just recover to the SMA indicator. And thinking about the potential that it has from there is huge. It's about almost 30%. So do I think that it's going to recover? Yes. Do I think it's going to start to recover now? I don't know. And that's why I haven't been actively watching it, because it's continuously been getting rejected. But do I think it might be a good investment long term? Well, as long as it starts to show signs of this reversal, it would make sense. Like, this is when I would start to add more to my position, or start taking positions, when it starts confirming an uptrend, not when it starts to sell off. But yeah, so great call out. Again, I want you guys to not just think like, okay, well, Ricky doesn't see value in this, so it's obviously not a good stock to invest in. That's not the case at all. Again, I'm focusing more on short-term swing trades, maybe within a couple of days or maybe within 1 week, and what I see value in within that period. And as of right now, HTZ, it would make more sense to me on why it would get rejected at 16, pull back at around like $15, consolidate, and then break back up. But after a matter of time, yes, I would see HTZ to make a recovery to around $18 to maybe $19, maybe even higher, right? But yeah, just wanted to elaborate a little bit more. Time value of money, 100%. So Chandler, what's going on? BRKL. All right, guys, I'm done taking any more callouts. I'm just gonna finish up. The last one is going to be this one right here with Justin, and then I'm gonna be good from there. And then I'll end the live stream. So BRKL, looking very overbought. Does not look like a good deal. It has been actively trending up, and that's great. These margins that it's been offering are not bad, 2 to 3%. Do I think it's the best stock that I can invest in right now? Not in my opinion. I would like to wait more for a sell-off. I find it to be much more attractive when it sells off, consolidates, and then bounces around the SMA indicator and above the EMA. So what I can do is I can set my alert down here. Yes, it might take some time, but again, that's why we have so many different stocks to choose from, because there's so many different options. So it doesn't mean that we have to take a position on everyone, just because every single stock is not at its prime. Just in case it continues to uptrend, I just want to stay alerted. It doesn't mean that I'm going to take a position, but it'll be something that I'll follow up with. So BRKL, appreciate that. Thank you again for the call out. How can you improve RSI readings? Becoming more. It's all about becoming more familiar with how to read it, because some people like when I gave that example of like UGAS and this 20-day analysis right here. What was it? I don't think it was actually UGAS. No, UGAS wouldn't be a good example. It was a call out that you guys that I had. I think it might have been GES. Nope. Nope. I don't know what the other call out was, but you just need to become a little bit more familiar with the different patterns that are and how it reacts to momentum as well, because it reacts very effectively with momentum, but it doesn't always mean that something is necessarily not a good deal, right? So as long as and it's just something with a matter of time that you will become more familiar with it. So just play with it, identify how sometimes it looks very overbought, and then you'll see a stock consolidate there for 1 week, and then all of a sudden, although it's still at the same price point, the RSI has dropped, down to 50 when it was at like 80. And you might be asking, well, why if it's still at the same price point? Again, it's because the momentum is what drove the RSI to be labeled as overbought. But after it continues to consolidate and that demand continues to build, the RSI drops a little bit. The demand becomes a little bit higher, and then once that momentum hits again, or for whatever the reason might be, if it continues to uptrend, breaks the resistance, and then you can see that the RSI will shoot back up again. So I feel like volume and overall momentum is a pretty good correlation to understand between the RSI indicator and when something is overbought. So as long as you begin to understand that, it also is something being oversold. It's definitely something that you want to take into consideration and becoming a little bit more familiar with. So I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Do I think that CL is going to be going up next week? Let's check it out. It's definitely showing some signs of consolidation, right? Definite signs of consolidation. Overall, I mean, it's done this before, and then it got rejected last time. You can see that the SMA indicator is showing more signs of a peak formation. So that's definitely something that you want to see, that it's showing more signs of like potentially making like lower lows and lower highs as well. So until it starts making higher highs, I can't really, there's no confirmation for that. So what we can do is we can set an alert. If it starts breaking resistance levels, then great, that's an indication for that. But if it continues to break support levels and continues to make lower lows, then there's an obvious indication why it will not, right? So let's just set those alerts, understand kind of what to look for, and follow up with it. I think that would be one of the most effective things to do. So Matthew says, I like frac. Sounds good. I like it too. HRTX. 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 Wow. Okay. I actually like this one. I don't like that it's a therapeutic company, and I can probably tell that it has pretty low volume. The volume isn't actually that bad. 20-day analysis, looking a little bit more on the oversold side. 90-day analysis, definite oversold side. 180-day analysis. I like it. Showing signs of a potential bounce. Again, the SMA indicator showing signs of an uptrend pattern. Who called this one out? Justin. My man. No, and it's not the Justin behind me. So I was going to say Dingleberry, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set an alert for the break above $32. And what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to set an alert if it starts to continue to make lower lows. So it's something that I'm going to follow up with, and it's something that I'm going to add to my active or my potential reversal. I have a watch list that's just for reversals. So this is going to be HRTX. So that is it. And then I agree with my first HR. Really appreciate that. Thank you. So thanks again, Jeremy, for saying that. AMRH. Let's actually break that one down. So I'm really happy to hear that you were able to make money off of this one. But if possible, I would almost encourage you to like, I would personally stay away from patterns like this. Obvious forms of manipulation and then continuous downward patterns. Yes, it does have some random pushes up, but I just find them to be a little bit more risky. And I do see a lot of new traders try to focus on these pump and dumps. Thinking about long-term growth and goals, I would stay away from patterns like this. So just my honest opinion. Not a call out, but I'm just curious, why wouldn't you short a pump and dump to this type of stuff? Yeah, it definitely makes sense. It's just if you determine the overall success rate for people that short, especially those that are just getting started, and me thinking about our overall community, I feel like if I encourage more of shorting, then it would encourage more people to almost a different avenue of how they could almost potentially lose money. The success rate when it comes down to shorting is very low, and it takes a little bit more to understand. And although I do see a lot of people do identify some form of success with that, we do have access and reach a lot of new traders. And if you guys can see by any of my videos, I'm going to make a video later today talking about my FRAC position, so FRAC, and why I plan on swing trading it. And you might be asking, well, Ricky, why didn't you upload that video when the market was open? My biggest thing is because I reach so many people. I take it as a personal responsibility to not promote any stock that can devastate anyone in any negative way. So although I see value in something, I know that FRAC is not actively trending up, and I don't want anyone to take a position because I know people will, based on me even telling them to not to do it. I know people will, and I just want to minimize that overall possibility for them to even consider the idea of taking a position without it even confirming that uptrend. So it's not more of like, it's not me trying to be like greedy or keeping things away from you. I know we reach a lot of newer traders, and I would much rather focus with them on building that foundation, building that eye for value, and growing their account consistently. And then if they want to branch off to something like shorting or momentum trading, then all power to you, you know? But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I want to thank you guys again for joining the Techbuds weekly live chat. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your Friday, and we'll see you guys for our Sunday stock talk. But that's really just it. If you guys can drop a thumbs up, the video is not going to go public anyway, so it's just going to be for us. We'd appreciate that. If you guys have any comments or suggestions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section. But yeah, that's really just it. We'll probably see you guys next week for these private live chats around Wednesday. And that is it. If you guys have any questions, you guys can direct message Justin and I in the Techbuds Solutions Discord chat. And then for those that want to check out, Learn, Plan, Profit, I think we have a couple of free videos from Learn, Plan, Profit. We can give you guys a sneak peek of if you've ever wanted to learn kind of like my trading style within Learn, Plan, Profit and how it is that we trade live. Direct message me within Techbuds Solutions, and we can get you in contact or get you in connection with a couple free videos. But yeah, that is really just it, guys. Let's keep it consistent. Let's focus on that quality. And even if it's 1% a week or if it's 5% a week, let's focus on growing your accounts on a consistent basis. And let's do something that 95% of the market can't do. So Andrew Gold is saying, have a good week, man. Thanks for $300 this week. It's awesome. Really appreciate that, Andrew. Maybe we can pick up some Raising Canes. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. And like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take it easy, team.